place feel a bit different day after a win, Matthew?
Oh, well, it's only early yet. The players are starting to trickle in, but yeah, certainly really proud of the performance yesterday. Great. It's a good day. The Waffle Eagles had an outstanding win. Big part of our program. It's great to see. And then to beat Richmond in the AFL was a really good performance, albeit, started a bit slowly the first 10 minutes and Richmond had their way, but we, steadied the ship late in that first quarter and were able to get some ascendancy through the second. So, yeah, it was a terrific win and celebrated, but back on the grass now. We've got to get back to work, and that's the most important facet. Is we've got a game in 6 days and got a good opponent.
How pleased are you for Jake Waterman?
I'm pleased for the maturity he's showing with his leadership, the way he's attacking his football with his pressure, his contested marking, his what's next attitude. So, it doesn't always work for you as a forward, but through the 5 games this season, he showed terrific resilience. He's had, the byproduct of that, he's had 22 shots on goal this year. But most of all, I'm proud of his leadership and his maturity and the way he's assisting Jack Williams and Noah Long and Petrocelli and guys like that. So particularly on the back of Oscar being out, it was a big blow. Oscar and Liam, 2 diverse forwards, and for Jake to step up in this period has been terrific.
What about Jack Darling? And obviously been under fire, 1 goal in 4 games. A lot better, even though he probably could have had 2 or 3 as opposed to just the 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Jack took a step forward last week with his pressure and tackling and contest against Swans. And then it was 27-1, I think, yesterday, and he took a contested mark and kicked a goal. He then set up the next one to handball to Harley Reid, and I thought he really stood up against the tide and got us going. And then after that, he just really competed hard and got to the grass really quickly after aerial contests. So I was proud of his fundamentals. I liked the way he went about his footy. And again, he's been great support for, Jack Williams and guys like that. Also doing a bit of ruck work in the front half. Gives him a little bit of diversity as well. So, yeah, pleased for Jack. Work to do, but he's taken steps forward.
The fact that Liam Ryan played as a halfback in the Waffle, do you expect when he comes up a grade, do you expect to have him or do you expect him to be down the other end?
I certainly would like to have him in the front half. Liam, I guess the game's got really flexible, the AFL, and having flexibility with your players is important. So being able to play half-back in the Waffle, play virtually a full game and demonstrate some real overlap run and ball use was terrific. So I guess it gives us some flexibility as a team and, we'll see what we come up with later this week with selection and, moving forward for Liam. But, it's a holistic plan for Liam. He's kind of come off a long layoff and we've just got to make sure he's right for the rest of the season and we'll talk as the week goes on. But, yeah, it was nice to see him running around yesterday.
So realistically, is he ready to play in a game like a derby or would he need another week in the Waffle?
Oh, if you ask Liam, he would say he's ready. He's a fairly confident man. But, as I said, we'll have a discussion. We'll see how he's pulled up. I haven't seen him this morning. He'll report this morning. We'll do recovery. And then, he'll work pretty closely with Simo and the medical staff to make that decision, And I think that's the important thing is we do the right thing by Liam. And whether that's this week, I don't know. We're just going to have to make that decision later in the week.
The game's shifted a bit since you played, hasn't it? Ball users off the back, pressure applies down the front. It's a different game.
Yeah, I mean the game through the decades and over time is keeps challenging us all, and to watch Collingwood last year with Quaynor or Dacos mark off the back, generating run and speed. A lot of the teams are going that way. I mean, if you look at Brisbane, Coleman and guys like that, McKenna, so. It has shifted. We're looking to do that, with guys like Brady Hoff and Tom Cole, and then you look at other ways you might achieve it. It's a facet of the game that's important, the way the game's played today, and you can't just rely on the mids to generate all that run. So it does come from half-back a little bit more now, yeah. So
speaking of different teams going about it different ways, they've been locked down trench warfare for 2 weeks now. Is that what you're expecting? A tight game where the chances for forwards will be pretty precious?
Yeah, if you look at Fremantle's form line over the 5 weeks, there's not a game they haven't been in, and then they've played two outstanding teams the last 2 weeks and gone right to the wire, Carlton and Port. So they're very contested, they're very pressurised or pressure related, and then you got guys like Pearce and Ryan that are, there's pillars back there that are creating issues in the air. So, that was certainly a focus from our forward group the last couple of weeks is to make sure we compete really hard in the air and then get to grass really quickly. So, a formidable opponent in good form, but we've come up for good victory ourselves, so it should, give the team a lot of confidence.
I think the weekend was your biggest score since round 2 last year. What brings about a big score from a forwards perspective for the Eagles? Is it the connection with the mids, is it taking the chances? What is the reason behind a high-scoring Eagles outfit?
Yeah, the connection with the mids is a really pertinent point in regards to sort of that synergy of playing with each other for periods, like when you see outstanding teams and probably Eagles teams of the past, that synergy between mids and forwards and guys like JK and Darling and the like. We're building that synergy, we're endeavouring to build that, so that's one part of it. The second part of it, from my perspective, is to have a very contested forward line that plays the fundamentals of the game well, and that's whether it's contests, whether it's tackling pressure, whether it's your execution of skill. So we have to go back to work this week and get that right as a forward group. But the byproduct is the shots on goal, and we've grown that over the last 3 weeks. The Bulldogs, we kicked, I think, 312. It was disappointing, but then the last 2 games we've managed to score a bit more heavily. But on the back of that, the mids have been doing a good job on the backs. We've been getting supply, I think 50, inside 50s last week, close to 60 this week. So that gives your forwards an opportunity.
And obviously, bar Oscar Allen, do you feel like you've got the right mix in that forward line now? Is there the right personnel up there to produce the score and gel well as well?
Yeah, I think the personnel is growing, albeit, there's guys that are playing in the waffle that if they play well, they'll earn their selection. So it's not a locked-in scenario. Yes, we performed well on the weekend as a forward group and last week against Sydney. However, things move and things change. So everyone that played on the weekend has to come back to training this week, really go after what they're good at and push hard so that we ensure next week we get a similar outcome, because yesterday's gone now. The reality is, we got Fremantle in 6 days, so I'll be really looking closely at the forwards really going back to work this week to make sure we're in good shape for Saturday night. Yeah.
You had, I think it was 48-25 at clearances, a lot of centre clearances, a lot of score from clearances, and they were coming out the front end a fair bit. That helps, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's certainly coming out of the front of stoppage. I mean, we saw obviously, Tim Kelly, Harley Reid, Elliot Yeo, obviously Bailey Williams giving us a look at it inside, and when it comes through the front, it's really difficult for defenders, and because of that, we did get some deeper entries, particularly out of centre bounce, and we're able to capitalise. So full credit to our mids the way they played, and to have such a disparity in the clearance numbers is a real positive for us yesterday. And we have to step up again in that space. Watching Jackson and Hayden Young and Sarong and Brayshaw and Fife go to work, they're in a nice spot with what they're doing as a midfield group as well. So our boys need to step to the plate again this week and have a real crack at that.
What changed with the clearance? Because watching the game, Richmond started really hot.
Yep.
And then it was almost someone flicked a switch, and I think it was nearly a dozen clearances in a row. What changed, particularly that first quarter?
Yeah, it's a good question on the clearances, because it was part of the game that clearances and Richmond were marking the ball early. They had 19 uncontested marks in the first 8 minutes, so they weren't winning the contest and then using it quite well. So we had to sort of sharpen ourselves up in the stoppage and contest area, which we did. Our midfield group got to work, and then we sort of started to take away the uncontested game for Richmond, which was important for us, got us back into the contest. So I think it was just a matter of they got good guys like Bolton and Martin, and young Dow showed a fair bit early, and they just got their hands on the ball early, and then our guys really knuckled down and went back to their craft, went back to their body work, and we're able to then get some ascendancy through the second quarter. So yeah, I think it was just a matter of going back to the craft and working hard at your game rather than switching up structurally. Yep.
Tell us about Jack Williams. Took a nice mark, and still just glimpses, I suppose. But
yeah, I'm glad you've asked about Jack. He's basketball background, really quite savvy with the way he goes about his work as a forward, as a ruckman. Obviously had that major spleen injury, which has set him back. But having a player that can play forward and do the second ruck is invaluable. He's growing in regards to his impact on games. He took a really good contested mark last week against Sydney, took another one this week and finished with a goal. And progressing. He's progressing. A lot of work to be done. I think he's just scratching the surface on, how big and strong he's going to be. He's still only a very young man, and I could envisage in 2 or 3 years' time he might have another 8 or 10 kilos on that frame. So, promising young player. But again, he's got to keep earning his spot, and we've got to keep believing in him as a coaching staff, because he's certainly got some natural talent and creativity.
Just one more on Liam. That move to halfback, is that also about maybe trying to protect him and his body a little bit? Is that position, I guess, kinder on the body? He's had a lot of soft tissue injuries in the past. Is that part of the thinking? Or?
Yeah, good question. I think some weeks that may be the case. But then as a halfback, you're playing on forwards that are running 15, 16 Ks a game. So there's that element of that transition as a halfback you've got to have as well. So you not only got to have the creativity, you've got to have the running capacity to go with those high forwards. So not as protecting him as such, it was more to just give him a different look at the game and just see what he could show down back for us. And all of it, it's very new for him. It's very new. He's going to have to keep learning how to defend, learning when to come off, learning when to be proactive and meet the ball. So it's only new for him. And as I said, I'm not sure where it's going to all end up in the next couple of weeks, but we'll soon find out, I guess.
The transition to his forward craft as well, sort of having a go at having to defend as well, and then maybe that transition into his forward craft from playing style.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think if he's in the contest as a defender or he's having to transition, I think that may help hhis forward line. I certainly don't think it will hinder it. And our aim is to become a very contested forward line group, and that doesn't happen overnight. We've got to get better and better and keep improving. But yeah, I think it'll be fine for him if he had to play forward in the near future.